video, I want to talk about the very basics of battery-powered electrical drills. These are becoming so much more common. There are so many brands, there are so many styles out there, but I want to talk in this video just about how they operate. If you've never used one before, they can be a foreign object, all right? And so when you're operating with it, and if you've never used one before, especially if you're like an apprentice or something like that, it can be pretty intimidating to ask somebody just the very basics of how a drill works, okay? So in this video, let's talk about the different parts and some of the basic operations of these drills and the different styles that are out there, okay? So you can see here that I have a number of different styles and brands of drills, okay? Coming from your pro styles where you have your Milwaukees and your DeWalts, to your weekend warrior styles, maybe the person who needs a drill every great once in a while, the Ryobi brand, which is the Home Depot brand, okay? All of these drills serve a function, and they all do these functions in extremely similar ways. So if you know one, you're going to know about 80 to 90% of another, okay? So let's go ahead and get into the very basics, all right? So this here is an electrical drill, all right? And with this comes a number of parts that are going to be similar to all different types of drills. So for example, the first is the battery. This is where we get our electrical energy from. The electrical energy then is converted to rotational mechanical energy in the form of a drill. All of these do this. Everyone at Home Depot, Lowe's, your local supply store, all of them do that, okay? Now, so we have our battery, we have our handle, and we have our trigger. All right, the trigger on all drills are in the exact same place, okay? You activate the trigger, it will begin to create that, it will connect that battery to the motor, and the electrical energy will be converted to rotational mechanical energy. Now, most of them will have a battery indicator on there, okay? You can see these lighting up right here. Most of the new ones will have some form of that. Even this old school Ryobi, if you push this, will indicate how the battery is doing, whether it's green, yellow, or red and about to die. All right. Not all of them do. Some of your impact drills won't. Some of your very small DeWalt ones don't actually have a battery indicator on there, but it's still pretty important to know, because if you're going up on a ladder, you want to make sure that you have a good steady battery with you that's charged up. So this is really, really important. If you're going on your roof to do some work, or if you're on the job, you want to double check that battery, and it may behoove you to bring an extra one as well, okay? Because when the battery dies, unlike the corded, it's done. The next feature that all of these have, and this is really important, is the direction. This can be something that confuses people who have never used drills before. Each drill has a selection that will reverse, or it controls the direction of the drill, okay? So all the ones that I've ever seen, on the right-hand side, if you position it, it will spin, okay, as if you are drilling into something. You push the button on the left, typically with your thumb. This will back something out. I've seen some newbies on the job site before who've never used a drill. Again, not their fault. They're sitting here in the reverse position trying to drill through something, all right? And they're not getting anywhere, and they're putting all their body weight into it and nothing's happening, all right? Maybe they're putting a little dent in there, and hopefully a nice person walks by and says, hey, fix that. Push this, and they just drill right through. More than likely, it's going to be somebody who's, looking to pick on somebody and is going to berate them for that. All right. So the directional switch right here is a very important piece, and all of them have that. Every single drill here has that in there. Okay, to varying sizes depending on the drill. All right. Even these screwdrivers that I'll talk about here in a little bit have them. Okay. So the next piece that most drills have is speed control. Some of them will have 3-position speed controls, but most of them will have 2. And that is located right here, all right? So you have 1, 2 is much faster. Some people will call this gear control, all right? This is like the gear switch. This is just a very generic speed control that will go fast or slow. Now, as you become more comfortable with the drill that you decide to purchase, you can get some speed control by using the trigger. okay? But what this 1 and 2 does is it sets the maximum range, the maximum RPMs that you can get out of this, and you can use this trigger for some speed control. Okay, so that's another important piece. Not all of them have this, but even the old school ones, like this old school DeWalt one that one of my students told me belonged in a museum, and this Ryobi, which every time you bring up in a video like this, you get made fun of, all right, has that feature. Then after that, we're going to want to understand what the torque control is. Torque control, sometimes also known as the clutch setting, is right here, and you can see that they're indicated by numbers, okay? The smallest number being the lowest torque setting, the highest number being the highest torque setting. And depending on what you're doing, you may want to consider switching this so you don't drill too far into something. For example, if you have to put a screw into drywall, there's some settings here that will not allow you to rip the paper out, which then decreases the strength value. And you can hear that when this happens. And if you've never heard it, it's a pretty distinct sound. And I've seen some students, I think I broke the drill. So to test this, I'll put it on, this is a screw setting right here on this Milwaukee. It happens to have a screw setting. And you can see that it's just drilling. But as soon as I put any resistance on it, let's listen to the sound. Okay? You kind of heard that. You hear that? That's it torquing out, okay? And the nice thing about this is if you have your clutch setting right, you're not going to damage any material, which is the point, okay? So as you can see, if I go up, to a higher number, I have to squeeze a lot harder to torque that out. So it would be able to go farther into a piece of wood, okay? And then once I get to 18, there's nothing I can do. Now, another feature that you want to consider nowadays that when you're looking at drills, compared to the old styles, well, what happened with the old style drills, which are still all around, you can get them sometimes cheap at a garage sale and things like that, if you're just a weekend warrior doing this stuff, is that torque setting would just have then a drill setting here that you could just come through and drill right through instead of setting the torque. A lot of them nowadays, okay, depending, will actually have a setting on there, where if you're putting in a screw here, or if you're drilling through something. And so depending on what you're going to be using this for, you want to consider what settings you have, because some of them will have extra ones like this right here. So we have, the screws, the drill, and then this one even has a hammer. And you would go to the hammer one when you're going through masonry, okay? Typically when you're trying to pre-drill for a TAPCON or something like that. It's important to note that you want this on the right setting, because the hammer drill, which will actually hammer it as it's going through, will wear the battery out much faster. The screw will last a little bit longer, and then the drill will run it down medium, okay? And so you can see this one doesn't have that hammer option. This one does. This one's more expensive, so you're going to want to consider which one you're going to go with depending on really what your goals are for this drill. All right, and it's not bad. Most people out in the trades will have a couple drills out there. Okay, so now let's talk about the chuck. Now on electric drills, this is really, on these battery powered drills, these are really nice. If you've been using drills for a long time, you know what you think of a chuck with a key, where you're actually putting a key in there and twisting it around to attach the drill bit to the actual drill, and making sure that it stays in there. And this key was really frustrating. They would get stripped out over time. They ended up not lasting as long. They would get lost. They would grow legs on job sites, all sorts of things. Well, now the chuck is actually built into it and it's hand controlled. So if I want to put a bit in here, I have to open these teeth, all right? And to do that, I'm going to put my drill in the reverse position. I'm going to then twist it like this. Now, if you're a newbie, you might want to just go ahead and twist it by hand, okay? But once you get a little more comfortable with it, what you can do safely, push it in the reverse position, grab the chuck with your hand, and then it opens up, okay? And so then you're going to want to come in here with your drill bit, all right? And if I want to tighten it up, I can do that by hand by rotating this, which is a totally acceptable way to do it. Open this up just wide enough to fit my bit in here, and then I can begin to tighten it up by hand. I get it tight, I give it a crank down, I'm ready to drill through something. But if I want to be a little bit faster with it, when you're comfortable with this, you can put this here, lightly hold this, with a couple of fingers apply pressure, and then right when it grips, you release your fingers up here, and then you come in here, give it a twist, this is locked in, and it's ready to drill. Now drill bits like this, most of them are still cylindrical. Some of them are becoming in a hex shape, okay? Some are pre-made, some are being machined like that. It just kind of depends. You also have these quick disconnect hex that can go into something like this, and they latch on really, really nice, all right? And so it just kind of depends on whatever you're using. This comes for a torque. This just happens to be for a torque screwdriver, and this comes with it. So if this is a drill you have, that's how you put that in there, okay? And so that is the basics of a drill, okay, and a battery-powered drill. And so when you focus on that, these are some of the basics. You got your old school DeWalt and your big Ryobi here, okay? All right. You have your Milwaukee's here, all right? These are all great. The other type of electrical drill you can get, more of a screwdriver, are some of these. This is a DeWalt, and these are two Milwaukee's. All right. Now, this Milwaukee is an electrical screwdriver, and this can be great because it's light. You can quickly come in, push this in, you're locked, and you're ready to drill. This can be great for doing drywall screws, some general construction. It's great. It's light, works really, really well. Again, there's both forward and reverse. But the issue here is with this is not meant to drill. Okay. All right, you cannot put a big bit like this and drill with this. You can get one that combines these two here, where you'll have a drill bit and a quick disconnect hex, but I haven't had great success with them, and so I don't use this for drilling. It's not meant for drilling. It's meant for being a screwdriver, okay, an electric screwdriver, and it does a really good job of that, all right? Now I have two of those here, all right? This is what we refer to as an impact. Okay, and the great thing about an impact is when you're running it, as soon as it meets a certain amount of resistance, it will start twisting it, and what it avoids is your wrist getting snapped because something gets stuck in there. There's some other advantages of the impact driver, but this is a little bit slightly more advanced than the typical homeowner might want to go, but it works really, really well. And this is the DeWalt version of that as well, okay? Both of these work really well. They're both very light. It's very good. Now, some of them will come with some fancy features on here. Like this one right here comes with a clip for your belt, all right? As you can see, this one's already fallen off, so that's not something that you would want to decide which one you're purchasing for, because it'll end up falling off eventually anyway. And so this is a little bit about the different types of screwdrivers that are available to you at anywhere you really want to go. And so again, this was just the very basics of the drills. Each one of these will have some extra features. Some will host a light like this to give you a little extra viewing room, a little extra illumination, which is great. And so anyway, this is just really a very basic introduction into how drills work. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you would, please like and subscribe. Thanks.